yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. We have Sgarv on a replay analysis. He is running his T-34-2G-FT, Tier 7 Chinese TD. He's the bottom tier, although it is only a two-tiered battle on Murovanka. Headed over to the, what side is that? The east side of the map, and he's going to do some TD work over there. Sgarv, you should paint this thing. Come on, this is terrible. Look at this base model thing. All right. Chinese Tier 7 TD, 100mm gun, reloads pretty quickly. Doesn't have much armor, is fairly mobile. You'll notice Sgarv is platooned with easy money in his KV-3. I don't believe this was a dynamic platoon, but I don't know if they have voice comms, because one thing right off the bat, Sgarv, that's going on is easy money is going a different direction. I do not recommend that for platoons, even in the case of a TD and a heavy. Now let's see what happens as you go over to the east side here. We'll talk a little bit more about that platoon thing in a moment. We've got an E-25, an SU-152, and a Scorpion G, all TDs who are looking to be content to redline camp. Now this is extremely dangerous on this map. The east side is very important. As a matter of fact, most games are won by winning the east side. What's going to end up happening here is this team that he's fighting is going to come very close to winning, because they do win the east side, and it's only through some heroics from Sgarv that saves the day for the greens. But it very, very easily could have gone the other way. So let's look at the glove save here from Sgarv. He has a really nice game, but let's talk about how maybe it's possible we don't get into that kind of predicament by good positioning and reading of the map. So initially, a bunch of TDs on the red line, which can work if you have a spotter. Unfortunately, the T-71 goes down quickly. They've got an enemy scout over there at least. It looks like an M445 and God knows what else. The major stack of the greens of Garv's team is over on the west side, and they're duking it out with the heavies over there, which can work if they win and this side holds on long enough. So let's see how that goes. 1357's down to a one shot. Be nice to get rid of him. Those eyes are important. But about now, based on timing, we should start to see guys, there they are, we should start to see guys show up over here, because they've run into nobody in the trees on the about EF line, so they're going to start to filter up through this lowland just below right there, and that's exactly what they've done. They've got another scout with them, which can be problematic. There's an E-25 still and a Scorpion, but you can see that the Scorpion starts to bug out, and not only does he bug out, as I recall, he's going to keep on trucking. When he could have simply turned in these bushes, looks like he's spotted, so he's taking some fire trying to get away. But he doesn't seem to turn around and help. He just keeps going. The E-25 is doing some spotting. He's about to get lit here because he starts to take fire. The 1375 gets in there, and now we've got an IS trolling around, a wounded WZ, and a wounded Progetto. E-25 bugs out, but much like the Scorpion, goes a little bit too far. I think the Scorpion has stopped behind Sgarv and is attempting to fire from his position back there, so at least his gun's back in the game, and now Sgarv is going to bug out. And you'll notice that their scout pushes in. Easy money is dead over on the other side, so we no longer have that synergy of the platoon. So let's get back to that. If the KV-3 had moved forward, didn't necessarily have to get up here alone, but maybe get down to this low area here and start to keep those guys busy. Maybe these TDs have a better time back here. There's a little bit of synergy with the platoon that you really gave up by going two different directions. It's not easy on this map on this side for a heavy and a TD to work together, but it harkens back to something I see written about and hear a lot about, which is going where your particular class of tank goes. So on this map, typically you will have the heavies go over to the west side, and the lights and mediums will go over to the east side. Well, if that's how you play the game constantly, you're probably not going to do very well. You've got to read the map, you've got to know the good positions, and sometimes your heavy does need to go over in the forest. I would contend on this map, you go over and win the forest and then come back. That is not as cut in stone as a lot of maps are when it comes to saying where the good position is, but it's fairly strong position on this map to go over to the east side, win that, and then come back, provided you don't completely ignore the west side. On this map, if you lose a flank, it can become very problematic. Now, we have repositioned while I was babbling, and I talked about that scout before I started talking about that positioning stuff. The scout went in there and started lighting these guys up. In fact, he got rid of the WZ. And all that time, you probably had shots of opportunity on these guys to help out with the scout, and Sgarv's going to simply bug out, and now we've lost an entire flank. Scorpion's at least turned around, taking a look, and it looks like the E-25 is trying to do the same thing. And now our gun's out of the game. With a TD, you've got to find ways to keep your gun in the game, and it can be very difficult if you're doing the red line sniping thing, and the red team is not being accommodating and rolling up in front of your gun. Meanwhile, your guys over on the west side are getting rolled up a little bit. Looks okay for the moment, but now we're going to start losing people to the GW Tiger P. The Oni goes down. There we go. We got their Tiger P. So still looking okay, but we have a E-25, a Scorpion G, Sgarv in his T-34-TD thing, all basically out of the fight. So we're going to sit back here for a while. We do a lot of forwards and backs. What I want you to do, Sgarv, if you pay attention to this, replay it all, this analysis, is consider the amount of time from when you left that flank, and while I'm talking here, how much time you took just sort of forward and back, looking for a shot. So you are really relying right now on the enemy creating shots for you instead of creating shots for yourself. That doesn't mean go rush forward and get spotted and die. This thing is going to go down pretty quickly from 3 or 4 hits at the most, maybe 2 depending on what hits you, if artillery is involved. But you can see that we're kind of rocking back and forth. We're worried about that Amex M445, who's unlikely to come around that corner. He's busy trying to take on the Tiger P. There goes the Scorpion G. He's running in. I love Carol Cleveland, so he... Is that a person, or well, it's probably a person, but is that a famous person? Who's Carol Cleveland? He loves her. All right, that name cracks me up. I just noticed that. And finally, so the enemy comes in and does a foolish move, and that's what I talked about. If they win a flank, it can be very difficult to win in this game. But if they sort of foolishly push into where a bunch of TDs are, then they're going to have trouble from the rest of the. And I hate to say it, Sgarv, camping TDs. Now, to some extent, it was a great reposition move idea. I just was not very excited about how far you went and what you did in the corner while that happened. I really think if you'd have supported that scout a little bit, you might have got a couple shots in before you had to leave. But at the very least, you would have looked for those shots, and so the IS comes at you. You should have known the IS was probably following up with the Progetto, and you may have been going to look for him. He foolishly goes after your artillery. Doesn't really realize the speed of the reload on this TD, and he goes down pretty quickly. You saved your artillery, but the other artillery nukes him. And now we're down to a 2v4. The Su-101's a pretty good tank, so he's over there on that flank. Looks like you're coming around to maybe try to get some help to him. We got a M445, and he runs out into the open. So now we've got another tank walking into your shots, which is very useful. You were going to take that hit. I may have just sat there and zoomed in just to make sure this guy goes down, but that's in effect what you did right there. A little wiggle might have been okay. You may have been able to get it into the track. As it was, he had a good aim or good RNG and ends up hitting you. And now we're moving. As far as this goes then, this is a camera work thing that I noticed with you. You really look the direction you're going. What you need to start working on is doing this kind of thing. Looking at where the threat is and looking all around while driving. So go to that free camera mode and just look around. Say, oh, okay, yep, there we go. And you're looking for a shot. You really want to support this Su-101. The Scorpion is a problem, so just simply driving up over and cresting and getting shots probably not the best idea. But maybe get into these trees right here or something, or maybe even use these bushes that you're already in. Just circle back and come back into them. You really want to try to preserve that Su-101. You're doing a really nice job as a single player here, but a little bit of support maybe to that Su-101 may have kept that poor guy alive. And you would get up there just a little bit late, and down he goes. And we're on a 1v3 with a tier 7 versus 2 8s and a tier 8 Arty. Now, I already gave it away. foreshadowing. This is a glove save at this point. Watch how he uses these bushes. Now this is a good instructional point for those of you who are trying to learn how to use bushes, use TDs in this kind of situation. Sgarv's got a really good grasp on how to double bush. He sees that guy, but instead of shooting, backs up until he's double bushed. That guy knows he's spotted. He's trying to get away, and he takes a hit for no spotted action on Sgarv. Did not get spotted there. Goes forward to try to get that shot, and it's not there. So the Scorpion knows what direction Sgarv is. There's no real reason to stay there. And notice as he spins, he keeps the bush between himself and the Scorpion. There's a little spot right there where he's going to be potentially out in the open, but he scoots around the corner. Scorpion's probably hiding below. Here's another one now. And as he comes around this corner, he's going to run into the SU, and the SU doesn't quite see him in time, not really paying attention to the mini-map. And unfortunately, he actually gets circled, and this is where the mobility on Sgarv's tank is pretty good. I would have backed up and turned right there so he didn't have an option to ram into you. That's exactly what he was trying to do, was keep you from getting your gun online. Remember to keep a little bit of distance. He gets hit by the artillery. All right, the first thing he does is fix the track. I completely agree with that because the Scorpion is probably charging in. The next thing I would have done is I absolutely would have fixed my crew and removed the stun right there so that my reload got going and I didn't have such a wide turn. But as it is, the Scorpion doesn't quite come up and over before you can put a shot on him. Unlucky for him, you were pointing right at him right there, more or less anyway. So nice job, takes down both those guys. A little bit of luck, some good bush knowledge and understanding how to do that, and a little bit of a lack of SA from the enemy team. So I'm going to speed this thing up. We're going to do another nice job with a bush here, but there's an interesting thing that happens. We're going to come up here. He has good knowledge of where the bushes are, where to look. I'm going to take a little peek here on this one. Looking around, and boom, there he is. Now, you got to look at that because this dude is not looking at you right now. Let's see if I can zoom into where. That's about the best I can do without going into the forward view. I would have immediately spun and put a shot on him as he was spinning to put a shot on you and then dropped off the back edge of that. You absolutely had a shot right there. So missed opportunity. We're going to spin around this way. Go for another bush. You may have been going, all right, I'm going to try to double bush this guy, but you really had an opportunity to shoot him. Put one shot you needed. There he goes. He's still trying to move. Boom. I may have even just stood in there on that one. And what I'm looking for is if he stops and spins towards me, then go, by all means, run away. But if he keeps on trucking, you may have actually got that second shot in as he was going. And he is absolutely trying to get away right there. Okay. And that doesn't affect what you did, even though you backed up initially. And then watch what he does for the end game here. Instead of charging in straight, letting the artillery know exactly where he is, he's going to go wide. Use all these bushes here. Comes around, probably a little more cautious than I would have been, but not a bad idea. 2,900 damage. Maybe even more if some of those blind shots went in. Comes all the way around using all these nice bushes. There he is. You actually drive up and over and get him, but you had a shot before that. Still, nice job. And down he goes. Top gun. 3,000, over 3,000 damage. Glove save. Nice job, Sgarv. One thing I would say about this is I believe your job could have been made a little bit easier if you'd have been in a little bit better position in a couple times during the game. But as it is, it's hard to argue with a Top Gun win glove save like that. Nice job. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the support of the channel. And as always, we will see you.